Hi there. Welcome. Welcome to the podcast. Is that what we call it? I'm casting my pod around the world. Here, have a bit of pod, everyone. Pod in your face or in your ear holes. However you're taking this today. This is the SitRep. The situation report, whether you are watching this on YouTube or on the Instagrams, or perhaps even listening to the smooth dulcet tones of my voice through whatever your favorite podcast app is. Mine is Spotify. Don't know why I mentioned that. Just the one I use the most. Anyway, it's the 10th of September 2022. And here we go. I wasn't going to do one today. I was sitting there on the couch and I was like, I don't know. There's not a whole heap of things jumping out at me today. Maybe I'll just give it a miss today. And then every now and then Instagram comes through with some sort of inspiration that actually works. And I saw it. It was from Jack Donovan. If people don't know who Jack Donovan is, especially if you're a man, I suggest you go read at least some of his stuff. The Way of Man is a great book. Anyway, got me up off the couch and was like, you know what, I'm just going to go fucking do it. I have no idea really what I'm going to talk about. I'm just going to hit go on these different things, jump off the cliff and figure out how to fly. But here we go. Here's the news stories that have been thrust up into my eyeballs in the past 24 hours that are creating some sort of interest in my brain where I'm thinking, yeah, stuff's happening. There is a lot of stuff happening in the world right now. It's clear. And hopefully by going through this sort of stuff, we can get a better snapshot of what's going on and what's going to happen, that is. So let's sort of start off with this story. It's not really necessarily linked to anywhere. I'll kind of say it's China. It's also Russia. But reports coming out, Russian energy company announces it will accept payments in Chinese yuan. Says the move will encourage other companies to make the switch from the US dollar. Yet another nail in the coffin, perhaps, of the US dollar. The US dollar has slipped overnight. For those, I haven't been talking about financial markets a lot lately because there are a lot of people out there who do a lot of financial market rhetoric and talking that know a lot more about it than I do. I'm just kind of like amateur hour on everything, but especially when it comes to financial markets. But, I certainly keep my eye on the financial markets, and mainly from the perspective of precious metals because I like gold and silver. I just think they're a cool thing. So, yeah, I've been watching it. The US dollar, which has been doing like pretty well over the past week and a half or so, has just taken a little bit of a downturn. I didn't check it before I jumped on, but it was slipping against a lot of other things out there. Just for those who are interested in gold and silver, that gold's come down. Silver, I think, is at a pretty good price right now if you're interested in that sort of stuff. I'm not a financial advisor. All right. I don't know shit. Just from what I know, my experience of buying silver over the past couple of years, I'm looking at it now. I'm like, well, it's maybe sitting in a pretty good spot right now if you're going to go buy some. Anyway, hello to Just Do It OK 3 and Battery No Go says they want to control us. Yes, but who is they, and how are they doing it? Obviously mechanisms of control. This story I don't even have, but I'll just throw this up because it kind of it shits me. All right, this is a little bit of a Saturday morning rant for me. New York City has just, or the state of New York, perhaps, I think it's the state of New York, has just announced that they're going into a state of emergency. It's an emergency over polio, the polio outbreak in New York. It's such a big deal. We have to declare a state of emergency. Now, I don't know. Back in my day, get off my lawn. Yeah, you damn kids with your rock and roll music. Your thump, thump, thump. Back in my day, a state of emergency was kind of declared. It was reserved for being declared for an emergency. That was the key part of it, actually. It had to be an emergency. It wasn't like, oh, shit, we've got some people who caught polio over here. It was an actual emergency, like, Oh shit, a hurricane came and just destroyed Darwin. That's a fucking emergency. Oh shit, catastrophic flooding. Oh shit, catastrophic fires. That's an emergency. Not, oh, some people have got a disease, which we can actually immunize people for. That's not a fucking emergency. Like, what the fuck is going on? And why is anyone still listening to these governments? Like, it does my head in. Anyway, rant over. Let's put a little bow on that one. That's my rant for today. Just Do It Okay says polio. Whatever happened to the climate change crap? That's still in there too. That's still in. I'll get to that actually. All right, let's jump over to Japan. Japan building military ports closer to Taiwan in preparation for cross strait crisis. Cross strait as in the strait in between the stretch of water in between them and China, them and Taiwan. Japan is apparently building military ports down south in preparation for this. Are they actually doing it in preparation for this? Perhaps. I would think it would be wise to do that. That's something that's going to happen, but definitely Japan is starting to gear itself towards this as the rest of the world also is. North Korea. What's North Korea? I titled this one for people who are on YouTube. North Korea woke up and chose violence this morning. North Korea enshrines a law making their right of nuclear first strike irreversible. So their illustrious leader has come out and declared that its right of preemptive nuclear strikes to be irreversible while permanently barring any denuclearization talks. Can't even talk about it anymore. You can't, like that's not even on the table. That's gone. Those days are over. North Korea's coming out. That's a pretty strong message as far as I'm concerned. That's one of their strongest messages yet that they've come out and they've said we are not even going to consider the idea of going denuclearizing our arsenal, and we are going to not only reserve the right for preemptive strike, but we are enshrining it. We're making it irreversible, that no one can change it anymore. So this is basically saying unless they have some utter change in their political system, unless that country sort of collapses and something else comes in and everything becomes upside down, that's it. They're a nuclear armed country and they're forging ahead with that plan. If I'm in South Korea right now, I'm not feeling too great about the world, just to be honest. China, what's China doing? This is the sort of stuff that terrifies me because I can see this sort of stuff actually bleeding into our Western countries, mainly because that's been the trend. We've seen stuff that's happened in China and we all go like, oh that is terrible. They block parts of the internet. Their government gets involved in their social media to say what information can and cannot go out. Oh, disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. And, fast forward 3 years of pandemic bullshit, and all of a sudden we're all like, yeah, our government should tell social media channels to stop misinformation. Yeah, they should, like, whatever they agree with, that's the only information that should go out there. And I'm like, but wasn't that what you were complaining about China doing, 4 years ago? Because it's the same shit. It's the same shit. So every time I see more stuff coming out of China, which is horrific and against human rights, then I'm like, oh, this is probably going to be us in another 2-3 years at the most. A new report out today from by Safeguard Defenders called Drugged and Detained, China's Psychiatric Prisons, exposes how Chinese police and government agents are still sending petitioners and activists to psychiatric wards for medically unnecessary compulsory treatment, where some are stuck there for years. So you disagree with the government, there's clearly something wrong with your head. Off you go to the mental ward, we'll drug you up. Who knows what else China's doing? Probably lobotomizing people, probably electroshock therapy involved in there too. It's probably just basically torture, re-education camps, but just branded in a mental wellness ward. in the hospital. That's where we're sending you for years at a time until you actually snap out of it and see the light and see that the government is always right. I watched the first episode of Handmaid's Tale, so I'm like, it's happening. Is that a documentary, by the way? Can someone tell me? It will be soon. UN. What's the UN? UN food official warns fertilizer affordability crisis could slash global grain production by 40%. I'm feeling like these headlines, I don't know if it's me not having enough coffee this morning, but these headlines are like designed to twist my tongue. I cannot get them out this morning. Global fertilizer shortages threaten to starve a planet as prices are too high for some farmers ahead of the next planting season. More food apocalypse news coming out of the UN. Dutch agricultural minister resigns following mass uprising. So if you've been following this uprising of the Dutch farmers against their government, what's been happening there, that they've started to clearly attack their own farmers and say, no, you're doing the wrong thing. We have to put more taxes. We have to, stop what you're doing. We have to limit what you can actually do, and essentially crippling their ability to earn a living. Well, now the Dutch agricultural minister has actually resigned, surprisingly, which to me, I look at this and I go, well, that is an admission in of itself that their policies are wrong. And that perhaps, I think, underneath what's going on, that Dutch minister has looked at it and gone, yeah, actually, this is wrong. And the government said, you have to keep doing this. All right. We have to get this through. And he said, I'm out. I'm not doing this anymore. What he actually said was, where is it? He told reporters that he isn't the right person for the job. Yeah. Which I agree. And I think it's actually good that we've got somebody coming out and like putting a nugget of truth out there for once, instead of politicians coming out and going, oh, it's for personal reasons and, blah, blah, blah. I'm being moved on. We're being moved sideways, something, blah, whatever bullshit's coming out. They've come out and said, hey, you know what? I was out of my league here. Didn't know what I was doing. I'm the wrong person for this job. I'm out. Yes. And now we just need every other politician on the face of the earth to also admit that they're all the exact wrong person for the job. They're all just doing politician stuff and then being crammed into, hey, you're now the leader of the agricultural sector. You're now the leader of the military. You're now the leader of education. Do you have any background in it? Doesn't matter. You're my mate. In you go. In you go. You get paid more money if you're up here in the front of the house. So come and sit up in the front here because we're buddies. I don't care if you don't know anything about education. It's kids. Who cares? We just need to get them jobs. Doesn't matter. They just need to pay tax. That's all we care about. Get them, well enough so they can pay tax. And if they can't, we'll get them on welfare and then we'll own them. Yeah. The mayor of Antwerp has come out and said Belgium is bankrupt. We are the new Greece. So what does that comment mean? People with the short memories might forget that Greece was in, or has historically been in, a lot of financial hurt over the past 15 years, 20 years. In fact, if we go back around, also maybe kicked up around 2007, 2008 with the Great Recession and carried on for a bit, there were huge riots going throughout Greece. And they increased up to about 2015, 2016 against austerity measures. So quite famously, some of the things they did were they actually, and this always causes riots, when governments who have been giving stuff to a people all of a sudden have to take stuff back. So they were taking stuff back now. They were saying, hey, pension funds, maybe not so much. Retirement age, all these people were like, yes, I'm 55 and I've worked hard all my life and I'm retiring. And they're like, well, we're just going to move those goalposts a little bit. Now it's 65. So have fun for the next 10 years working your ass off. Good on you. Obviously, people weren't happy about that and they were up in arms about it. And Greece went bankrupt. Not once, I think twice, maybe even 3 times. So they had to go on hands and knees to the EU and to the IMF and say, Me got no money, yeah. That's Italian. I can't do a Greek one. Anyway, we got no money, and they're like, "Here's all right, fine. Here's some money." And then 2 weeks later, they're like, "Hey, we got no money." And they're like, well, "What? We just gave you money. What are you doing?" They're like, "Yeah, I spent it." Well, Belgium is apparently sitting on the same trajectory now. That they are out of cash, and the mayor of Antwerp, at least, believes that Belgium's going to be the next Greece. As in, what he's alluding to here is, yes, we're going to be bankrupt. Yes, we're going to be towing the chain. Yes, there's going to be riots in our streets. Here's what really caught my eye, though. Now, you will know if you've ever listened to me that I think what the Russian government did by invading into Ukraine has caused a whole lot of issues. However, the whole rhetoric that everything is Putin's fault, I think it's just utter farcical bullshit. It doesn't add up. It is a factor. It is a key factor, but there are other key factors in the issues that we're seeing around the world at the moment. And more they're trying to blame Putin, and more it's becoming obvious it's not just Putin's fault. There's a whole system of problems that are going on. Now, what does the mayor of Antwerp come out and said? Quote, "This is, of course, not a crisis that Putin caused, but that Europe caused itself by phasing out its own primary energy production during this century. The most stupid countries, Germany and Belgium, got out of nuclear power. We pushed away all sources of energy, making us dependent on Putin. Now we cling to it," end quote. Whoa, that is the biggest truth bomb that I have heard out of any elected official in the past, I want to say 3, 4 years. That's amazing. Because I believe that is actually correct. That the policies that they've been doing for so long now have been increasing the fragility of their system by becoming increasingly reliant on one source. And when that source then became the bad guy and they had to try to punish them, of course, that source is going to go, well, how about no? I'm turning the gas lever off. So suck on them apples, Europe. And then Putin drops the mic and turns around. And now they're reaping what they sow, essentially. Do I love nuclear? No. Do I think nuclear is the answer to all our problems? No. Do I see anything else that could get the world out of the energy crisis that it's in at the moment, apart from nuclear? No. I think it's kind of like the best we've got at the moment, the best option that people have at the moment. And I'm particularly looking at you, Europe. I'm looking at you, Australia. We've got our own issues, but we certainly don't have nuclear power of any scale here, and we have zero plans to increase our nuclear power capability within the next 10 to 20 years. That's been very, very much advertised out there. However, we're not actively trying to shut down any of our nuclear power. We also haven't exactly shut down the ability for us to ramp it up. We just haven't really talked about it. We've just gone, have you seen how much coal we've got in our backyard? We'll just burn this shit. We'll just burn it all day. Do you see how much sunlight we've got here? Just build some solar panels. You know what? We'll sell coal to China, and then we'll use the money that we sold selling that coal to China to buy solar panels from China with silver that we sold to China. And yeah, I think it works. It works somehow. I don't know, but we're going to do that. So that's Australia's own issue. But nuclear power, I don't know how the world's going to deal without it right now. Germany's still moving away from it. All right, see how it goes. We'll see how you feel about this. A fool allowed to persist in their folly will soon become wise. That's the theory, at least, anyway. So I'm interested. I'm like, hey, let's see. Come January, come February, when you're freezing your asses off, literally, when people are dropping dead, and you kind of also dealing with a food crisis. See what happens then. See how you feel about nuclear then. Britain to lift fracking ban. Speaking about energy crises, I love it. I love the green push, and we all got to go green. And hey, you farmers, stop your cows farting, and you individual, you need to buy an electric car, and you need to stop, using electricity. But when we look at take a step back, and we actually look at the bigger things that are causing, the climate issues, the things that are contributing to stuff like the amount of carbon in the atmosphere. It's not cows fighting. It's not you as an individual, throwing out a plastic wrapper or, driving your car down the street. These are all contributors, but they're fractional contributors. So it's this big sort of stuff. So the governments who have been pushing, they'll continue pushing, and it'll continue being the little man, the Joe and Janes of the world, the us, the you and me, who have to actually pay the bill for this. But higher up, they're just this whole green stuff's getting thrown out wholesale. Absolutely getting thrown out wholesale. And this is more proof of it. Britain just like, oh yeah, are we going to go green? Or we need to start fracking. Frack it. We're doing it. We're going in. So this is their new Prime Minister. First thing off the bat. Hey, by the way, you're Prime Minister. What are you going to do? Start fracking. Oh, God, my Queen's dead. Oh, shit. Hello, King. Oh, God, this is day 2. Well, Liz, welcome to the job. Tough run for you. I don't know how you're going to deal with this. If I had been looking at this and they're like, yep, you're in the race for being PM of the UK right now, I'd be looking and going like, hey man, maybe you can just take this one. I'll come back in 4 years. I just, I'm not feeling, I've got a bit of something in my throat. I think I left the iron on. I better go. Cheers. Tough job for her. Tough job walking into this. But yeah, that's what's happening. Fracking is a technology which allows oil and gas to be extracted from shale rock by breaking it up with water and chemicals, and historically speaking, has a horrific track record of what it does to the local environment. So again, green policies, yay. Ukrainian grain going to EU instead of Africa. This was one that I saw painted on the wall, like totally right from the start, where people were like, at first I was like, hey, why is Europe up in arms about grain not getting out of Ukraine? I can see that it's going to affect them, but they've got other sources of grain. Are they really caring about the people in Africa so much? Because Africa is utterly beholden to grain coming out of Ukraine and Russia. They need it. People will die. And I've said this a whole bunch of times, that we're going to see death. And it's not we're going to see it, as in people aren't going to be dropping dead here in Canberra or Sydney or Auckland or, whatever city you happen to be around, Boulder, Colorado, or Chichester, UK. Just randomly naming places now. I don't even know if Chichester is a place. It just sounds like it might be a place in the UK. Not like people are going to be dropping dead in these areas from starvation, but in Africa, people will be dropping dead, and it will be wholesale. And not just from starvation. You've got to understand that there are a whole heap of other issues that come. So we're going to see a lot of disease increase in these areas as well. People's ability to do things like affect them, the movement of themselves in these sort of situations is worse. So more people are going to be affected by weather effects. We're also going to see increased crime and violence in these areas as well. So a whole heap of things. We're going to see mass increase in death. But finally, they've made some sort of agreement, and Ukraine grain is flowing out through the ports, and it's got through Turkey, and it's barreling its way down towards Africa. No, it's not. It's going to the EU. Why? Because they got more money. And I said this ages ago. I said about all the resources. Everywhere that needs resources, it's going to be the developing countries that get hit the hardest, because the other countries have the money to buy it. And when push comes to shove, when push actually comes to shove, the rich aren't going to go, well, Yes, we should do the right thing and we'll go hungry and cold this winter so the people of Africa can eat. They're going to go, no, we need this now, and we'll pay you more. And a company who's sitting there going like, shit, I could send this to Africa and get $10, or I'm getting offered $35 for it here in EU. This is a no-brainer. I'm going to go there. Bowie 19 Jan on the YouTubes just said, just got here. What's up? What's up? All sorts of shit. What's up is mainly today me just ranting like a fucking lunatic. It's not your usual flavor of SitRep, by the way, in case you hadn't noticed this today. I said at the start that I wasn't feeling it this morning. I was like, no, I'm not going to do a SitRep. And then I just thought, you know what, I'll get on here and see what happens. I'll jump off the cliff and we'll just try and start flapping our wings. And this is what has occurred. Utter madness. I apologize. I apologize if you wanted something more serious and something, a bit more factual instead of just my unmitigated opinion on shit. But welcome to social media. Unmitigated opinions abound. Horrible shit that's going on here. What are we looking at? 900,000 tons were sent to the ports of EU member states between August 1 and September 7. So my prediction, and take this with the biggest grain of salt that you can, I'm thinking about this and going, okay, how many people are actually affected by the food that's coming out? How much food and how many different countries and what situation are they already in within Africa? I will not be surprised if we start to see within 3 to 6 months numbers of deaths up in the tens of thousands. And if it goes on, tens of millions within 12 months or 12 to 18 months, really. That's what we're looking at. That's how serious a food crisis is. It's one of the reasons why I always get on here. I'm like, hey, dudes, get out. It's sunny today. Get out in your garden. Start growing food because we all have the ability to grow food. And food is so important. It's one of the reasons why, when we're out in the wilderness in survival situations, it's like shelter, water, food, it's in there. We can actually technically survive 3 weeks without food, but large scale systems of food that we have at the moment in our world, and we don't have 2 or 3 people who are reliant on it. And we don't have like 3,000 people that are reliant on it. We have billions of human beings right now who are utterly reliant on food that is manufactured somewhere else that they have no idea about. And in reality, they have no idea how to create more food. They just rock up to their supermarket and go, yep, there's money, done. That's why it's important. We insulate ourselves against this effect. We pad ourselves against this by actually learning the process of how to source our own food, either how to grow it, how to encourage others within our system, within our local area to grow it by buying it off them, how to maybe grow or tend livestock, how to hunt and process animals. All these sorts of things are super, super important. That's going to become painfully obvious to huge swathes of humans within the next 3 to 6 months. That fact is going to become painfully obvious. Savage the Wild says, odds that China and Russia doesn't swoop in and play savior for Africa, ? Continue to grease those palms and help continue to push the Belt and Road infrastructure in Africa. I think they will, unless they have their own issues. I actually think, they're doing it right now. They are exactly doing what you just said then. They are offering aid. They are going in there. They're saying, yes, we're going to help. We're going to build this. We're going to do that. We're going to give you food. All this sort of stuff. I think that will only last a certain amount of time. I think Russia actually has much more capacity to do that than China. And I think it is a real blind spot for the rest of the Western world that we just don't look at this. And I'm always stunned when I read another story about another Russian company or another Chinese company slash government organization that is setting up shop in Africa, that is increasing ties within Africa. That why aren't we looking at that? Why is that? Is Africa so strategically unimportant to the West that we're willing to just let that go? Because it's a huge country and it has a massive amount of resources. My theory on it is this: I guess the kind of the white guilt theory, that Europe is so ashamed of what it has done in Africa in the past that it is just like, I'm out and I can't even look at that. Africa? I don't even know Africa. I've never heard. Oh yes, Africa. Yeah. You guys need money? Here's money. Money. Okay, we've got stuff going on here. We don't want to look at you. Whereas China and Russia are just getting in there and doing what they're doing. Where is the line of what's net good and what's not good? Are they doing good in the country? Like, a lot of reports say, yeah, they are actually building infrastructure. They are actually doing things for the people there. Are they also taking resources wholesale out of that country? Absolutely, they are. They're like, gimme those African oil, diamonds, gold, you name resource, we'll take it. Wood, coal, everything. Anything they can get out of the ground in Africa, they're grabbing. Even if it's just like, there's not even huge deposits of some of those things there. But they're like, yep, we'll take it. That's ours now. Because they can get it cheap. All right, let's jump over to America now. Little interesting story. Over 20 million American households can no longer afford to pay their utility bills on time. America is starting to feel that squeeze. You can see it happening. Australia, a little bit more insulated against the effects that we're seeing in the other Western / Anglo sphere. But we will be going down this path as well. Maybe not to the extent that we'll see it in the US, in places like UK, Germany, France, all these sorts of European areas, all these sorts of Western countries. But, it's worth keeping your eye on here and watching what happens with the US. And consider that, we've very much hitched our trailer to the US bandwagon. We are on it as Australians. There is no if, buts, and maybes anymore. There was for a while there. And what my sort of assessment of it, watching this over the past couple of years, but especially in the last 12 months, is we have gone nope to China. Apart from if you want to buy our resources, then yep. But we're like, all ties and everything with China, we've been pushing further and further away as we get closer and closer and closer with the US. I mean, we've historically been very, very close with the US, historically, in many, many different facets. But it is very obvious now, extremely obvious now. And yeah, so as the US goes, so will we follow. What else is happening in the US? Heat, wildfires, and tropical storms. It's the unholy trinity. No, there's a whole heap of stuff that's going on, weather effects within the US at the moment, and it's a little bit difficult to keep up with because there's so many different things happening within that country. It's a big country, right? But you're seeing massive tropical storms. You're seeing huge wildfires that are broken out in around California. Savage the World says, keep an eye on Cali, wildfires, heat wave, and a brooding hurricane on its way. Yeah, that's one of the stories that I was just looking at here. And because of those effects, they actually had a year's worth of rain dump in a couple of hours. A year's worth of rain dump in a couple of hours. Now, here's something that's really interesting about weather effects, and I love my weather effects. I don't know. I just really like, weather effects jump out at me for some reason. So I'm always like, here's a weather effect. Rainfall. I've been looking at average rainfall because I'm like, man, there's flooding everywhere. What's going on? Flooding in Australia, flooding in US, flooding in Germany, flooding, you name it, there's been floods, right? So it stands to reason that there should be higher than normal annual rainfalls. The funny thing is, though, that there actually hasn't been any abnormally high rainfalls. What has happened is that the rainfall that we've been seeing has been happening in an extremely, extremely short period of time. So instead of rainfall that would be spread out over 3 months, we're seeing it in 3 hours. So you can imagine that, yes, that's going to cause a lot of flooding. Also, the issue with that is that the land doesn't necessarily uptake that moisture. It gets washed off. It also washes off certain vegetation and creates landslides so that it is less likely to retain water in the future. A whole raft of issues come out of this flooding heat cycle. So what we're seeing is hot weather, which creates humidity, which creates rain, which comes down at once and then disappears and gets obviously out to the sea. So a lot of issues going on here in California, and all throughout the US at the moment. Obviously very hot. A number of YouTube channels and Instagram people and stuff like that I follow on various platforms. That are all in Northern America. Every time they go to get on, there's at least one comment about how hot it is over there at the moment. So that's a pretty serious sort of thing that's going on there with their weather effects. Obviously, Australia, we know heat. We're about that heat. We've had it before in the past. We have not had it, and we don't look like we're going to have it this year again. Looks like a pretty wet summer for us this year. But I know how painful that heat can be and how bad it can be and how apocalyptic it can feel when you got extreme heat and wildfires. Obviously, we lived through it here in 2019, 2020, and it was pretty full on. It was pretty full on. So stay safe out there. This is something, as I always say, we need to think about, though, these weather effects, these extreme weather effects. We can't just assume that what has worked for us in the past will work in the future. Now, I think we need to start being a bit more canny about this with the way that we structure our lives, with the way that we collect resources that come, to us, i.e. things like rain. With the way we build our shelters, with the way we build our houses, with where we build them, with the materials that we build them with. Are they able to withstand things like extreme wildfires, long droughts, flooding events, possibly even earthquake events? All these sorts of things, I think we need to start factoring in. And then on top of that, what can I do right now in my life to make myself more organized? And I always say, probably one of the easiest things when it comes to weather effects, extreme weather events, is have a grab bag. What if you get pushed out of your house? So two plans when I've got my security hat on, generally that we think about when we go anywhere. What do I do if I have to stay? What do I do if I have to go? And in the military, we would call that sandbag and landslide. So that was a little call over the radio, sandbag, 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 means I'm locking down in this area. There's an emergency and I have to stay here. I.e., what if the government ass clowns again go like, oh, pandemic of polio, monkey pox, COVID shit, stay in your house for 3 weeks. Do you have the ability to do that? Can you shut your front door and live like comfortably for 3 weeks? So that's something you should think about, something you should plan for. Also, what if you had to get out? Landslide, landslide, landslide. Let's get out of here. Let's get in the car and drive and get to somewhere safer because my house is about to burn down, or I'm going to get flooded in, or we've just had, XYZ happen, earthquake, or blah, blah, blah. I need to get out of here. Can you grab some things, or even just a backpack or something, get in the car and take off and have enough to keep yourself sustained for a few days at least? So these are the sorts of things that you should start thinking about. And that's why I throw up weather events like that, so that we can start to, nut these things out in our head and prepare ourselves to be the most self-reliant, prepared human beings that we can be. That is it for today, gang. Thank you very much for joining me. I apologize for anyone who wanted to get on and have a calm, factual, story-based SitRep today. It's Stu's Rant Saturday. That's what it is today. But I hope you're all doing well. I hope you're being prepared. Continue preparing. Continue to build up your resources around you. I do not see that things are going to take a surprising uptick in the near future. I believe, things will continue going the way they're going. So it behooves us to be more prepared. So stay safe out there. Keep your eyes open when you're out in the public space. Obviously, again, I think violence is going to increase within our society. So stay safe out there. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for all the comments that you all chucked up. And until next time, Semper Paratus.